Today, we have a treat for you guys. If you have ever thought about blogging as a form of income or blogging to help increase your traffic or the eyeballs on your course or membership, this episode is for you. I am going to be talking with Amy and Jennifer from Spark Media Concepts, and they are my go-to ladies for all things blogging. With over 14 years of combined blogging experience, Amy and Jennifer are passionate about helping women create the blogs they desire to build a business that allows them to live the life they desire, which right up my alley, right? They started Spark Media Concepts to help women use their stories, passion, expertise, and perspectives to share content that adds value to others via their blog. This episode is going to be jam-packed with awesome information, so let's dive on in. Welcome back, everyone, to the Course Creation Mama podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Bowden, and I have two amazing ladies who are the experts at blogging. We have Amy and Jennifer here from Spark Media Concepts, and I can't wait to dive into all things blogging. So, ladies, tell me a little bit about you and your business.
Well, I'm Amy Reinecke, and I'm one part of Spark Media Concepts. And I started this with, at the time, was my neighbor, Jennifer Draper. She's here with us today. We did start as neighbors, though. I started actually as her virtual assistant for her blogging business. And one day around my kitchen table, she shared a dream to help other bloggers do essentially what she helped me do. And that was start my blog, download a theme, teach me about it, and everything else. I thought she was a little nuts. I was like, who's going to pay for this? And God had a master plan there. And Spark Media Concepts was born in 2017. We started by doing it for people. We started by creating their websites for them. And within a couple years' time, we realized that that really wasn't the business model that we wanted. So when the pandemic hit, we shifted, we pivoted, and we created a course. Neither one of us had ever created a course before. And we spent the entire month of April 2020 locked up in our homes, and we put it to good use by creating our signature course called the Ultimate Blog Bootcamp. And it really does just help people with those foundational pieces of blogging, learning how to blog, and essentially holding people's hand. Because what we've realized is that people need a community when it comes to blogging. A lot of us are doing it at home by ourselves, and we don't really have anybody to ask those questions to. So Jennifer and I are just really passionate about making bloggers feel seen, feel heard, and know that they can come to this community, whether it's our podcast or our course or DMing us on Instagram, whatever it is, but that they have someone that they can ask about blogging.
I love that. I don't think I realized you guys were neighbors. I mean, I knew you were friends, but that's awesome.
Well, we're no longer neighbors. We now live 3 blocks apart.
That's still amazing. That's awesome. Okay. So now you guys are these blogging coaches, but Jennifer, I know you had like a blog originally before you started being a mentor for bloggers. So how did that all start and when did you start blogging?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. I went to school for accounting, had my master's degree in accounting, and worked in corporate income tax for 13 years and had left the corporate world for a short period of time in order to be home with my kids for some things that they needed and realized I didn't want to go back to work. And I wanted that flexibility in my life, but I always enjoyed working. I enjoyed a challenge. And I knew in my heart that I wanted to have my own business someday. But of course, back when I was in college, blogging wasn't even a thing. So it wouldn't have been anything I would have ever dreamed of. It just happens to be something that I stumbled across as an avid food blog reader. I love to cook and was always looking for new recipes and testing out other people's recipes and modifying them for myself. And I happened to come across a food blogger one day sharing about how her food blog was a business. And I had no idea at the time that that's a real thing. But I started investigating and I was like, well, if she could take her blog, turn it into a business and quit her full-time job and just be a blogger, then certainly I can do this too. So the rest is kind of history. I told my husband about my dream and he thought I was probably a little crazy, but he's like, yeah, sure, let's give this a try. So in the beginning, he was helping me set some stuff up. He has a little bit of experience where I had none with websites. And so that's how we kind of kicked the whole thing off. But then quickly I realized it was so much more than I had ever bargained for. And thankfully, I like to learn new things. So just along the way, I was constantly like trying to take courses, take classes, things like that, so that I could teach myself and be kind of in charge of my own business and my own future, how to do all the different things that come with blogging. And that's kind of how it all came back to, getting help from Amy originally, but then sharing how there's other people that feel the way that we feel, that, you know, they want to do this, but some of it's so overwhelming. Who knows what's right and what's wrong? What's the best way to do things? How could we help other people like skip some of the steps, skip some of the struggle that we've had to go through to figure this out?
Yeah. So I think you guys have the same heart that I do, and a lot of my listeners do, is you wanted some type of business that allowed you to put your family first. And with the typical like 9 to 5 going into work, that just isn't possible these days. And so many mamas want to be home and set their own schedule. So I love that that was kind of your why behind starting this blog. So you are a food blogger. So what specific type of food blog did you have?
Slow cooker recipes.
That is so crazy. Like
Yeah.
so niche, but it works, right? That's
Absolutely. And it's even a little more niche than that because I try to use mainly like whole food ingredients as well. So yeah, niching down is quite the important thing when it comes to blogging, is really figuring out like who you're talking to.
that's incredible. And Amy, did you have a food blog as well?
No. So I actually started my journey completely differently than Jennifer did. I started out on Instagram just sharing my journey with no intention of doing a blog in any way, shape, or form. But Jennifer and I were neighbors. I think she saw something in me before I saw it in myself, and had put a request out for a virtual assistant who happened to end up living next door to her. So it wasn't very virtual at all. But I worked for her, and I was sharing on Instagram. That's back in 2015 when Instagram was really booming. And people were able to grow much quicker than they are today over there. And I was happy there, to be honest. I was making zero money. I don't think I believed in myself enough that I could have turned that into a business. And I also don't think that at that point in time, that was something that a lot of us were thinking about. I think I was just enjoying sharing. It was giving me something, like a purpose outside of just being a mom. I wanted a purpose as well. Instead of just changing diapers and taking care of my kids, I wanted to give something back. And so I worked for Jennifer for about a year before I finally started like putting all the pieces together in regards to what a blog could offer and what it could do for our family, what it could do for my life. And in 2017 is when I launched my blog. And I do have recipes on my blog, but I actually have a health and wellness website as well, kind of talking about. I've kind of had a complicated and complex health journey, and I talk about that. So that is essentially what I share. There are recipes on there. Mine is not as niche down as Jennifer's. It's kind of hard to do that in the wellness scene. And my advice to anybody who is wanting that is it's possible, but know that growth might come a little slower. And that's just a sacrifice that you make when you don't decide to niche down, like as niche down as Jennifer is. Because when you know who exactly you're talking to and it's very niche, it can be easier to find those people. When your subject is a little bit more broad, then you have to have a louder voice. You might have to share a little bit more. You might have to do a couple different things in order to make sure that people can find your content. So I did things like start a podcast and just have some other ways that people can connect with me. And it's just thinking outside the box, I think, always. And that's the part I love about blogging, is that I think the old age idea about a blog is that we sit down and we write diary inserts and we share all the things about our life. And it's really, I'm not saying that there's not blogs out there that are like that, but we like to tell our community that really blogging is about helping people. Like, what solution are you providing to someone to solve a problem? Because most of the time people are coming to our websites with a problem to solve, whether it's getting dinner on the table, whether it's I have Hashimoto's and now I don't know what to do, whether it's I have to eat gluten free, how am I going to find a recipe for that? there's all kinds of things that people will be searching for. And so we have to have that voice that can be heard and found.
That's incredible because that's the exact same idea behind courses is you're helping people solve a problem. It's just in a different way. Okay, so I kind of want to talk about two different areas here because you guys mainly help people who their blog is their main source of income, right? Like that they're blogging and that's their job. A lot of my audience, they are current course creators or they want to be a course creator. However, a blog could definitely help build their organic marketing for courses. So I kind of want to touch on both points because I also like to tell my audience about, other streams of income because courses aren't for everyone. So let's start with the people who may be interested in just creating a blog and that's their job, that's their source of income. Like, what would you say to them to get started?
So I think the important thing to keep in mind now is that blogging has changed a lot just over the last few years, even. And so I think blogging is a great home base for pretty much any online business. And it can be a really great place to start because you can start driving traffic and you can monetize that way. But for pretty much anybody, even somebody who mainly wants to blog, we still encourage them to have other diverse areas that they're going to at least plan to go into as they start to grow their business because like I said, blogging is changing so much. And if you're truly wanting to build a solid business that can support you now and in the future, you really have to diversify. And so, like you mentioned, courses, and that is just one of the many ways that bloggers can or should diversify their revenue. I think there's a lot of different options, but that is one that is so married together with blogging because they're both in the online space. And like you said, they're both looking to serve somebody who has an issue. So I think they complement each other so well. So for somebody who wants to start with the blog, that is the perfect place to start because you can start to practice um, sharing content. You can start to figure out what your audience really needs, and you can start to refine those things so that when you're ready to dive into course creation and take that piece on, you'll have a little bit more of a solid foundation of who your audience is.
Yeah, that's a
Something I,
great.
something I'm going to add to that really quick, Lindsay, is I believe that everybody who is an online creator should have a blog of some sort. Now, I think that a lot of times when people use the word blog, they think of those like journal entries that I was talking about a little bit ago. But a blog, like Jennifer said, really is your home base. So it's your website. So we're helping people build their websites instead of going out and spending $10,000 to $40,000 by hiring that out. We can help somebody do that in a much, much more cost effective way that is going to allow people to possibly connect with them via Google. So we teach how to do keyword research. Keyword research is a really important thing. And it's something that can overwhelm a lot of people. But if you know who you're talking to and you know what kind of content they're searching for, then you can create blog posts that then will bring people into your community, onto your website. And then in turn, if you have a course to sell, for instance, you're not selling right off the bat. Rather, you're giving them free content to consume. And then you're going to say, if you would like to learn more, you can do it via this course. So it really is a way to kind of start the dating process before they marry you, essentially.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And I feel like I kind of skipped over the basics of like what is a blog. I feel like probably most people know, but I feel like people get confused like what's a website, what's a blog, and they can really be interchangeable, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's some of the things that have changed over the years is a blog is a website essentially. And bloggers use it for very different things. No two blogs are the same and we might each be offering different things, but essentially your blog or your website is going to be that home base that people can come to and see what are you about? What are you sharing? What solutions can you provide for them? And how can they stay connected and learn from you?
Right. And just so everyone is aware, if you only have a blog, how do you make money from that? Like, how do you monetize a blog? What does that mean?
So, one of the most common ways to monetize a blog is with display ads on your website. So, when you get to a certain traffic level, there are different companies that you can apply to join, and they basically manage all of the advertisers, and they have a lot of algorithms and things like that that help match up what would be a good fit for people coming to your website. So you are collecting data on people that are coming to your website, and advertisers are looking to target certain people. So the ad company will match those up and place display ads in the proper places on your site. And then as a blogger, it's fantastic because almost everybody is used to seeing ads on a website. So it's not a problem from a user perspective. And they don't have to click on the ads, they don't have to interact with the ads, they just have to see the ads, and then you get paid for those page views. And so that is one of the simplest and most common ways that bloggers start to make money on their blog. But there, like we said, there's a lot of other ways too. And that can be anything from working directly with brands to create sponsored content. So a blog post specific to a product or brand, and then also affiliate revenue. You can place links on your site to specific products and make a percentage. And then, like we said, creating your own courses, products, downloads, things like that. There's just so many opportunities out there right now for bloggers to make money.
Yeah, I've seen ebooks, especially with food bloggers. They'll have like recipe books. So yeah, you're right. I mean, there are so many ways, and I feel like sometimes if a person is ready to dive into the world of online business, they're like, where do I start? Do I start with a blog? Do I start with a course? And there's no right answer. It's yes, whichever one you want. So I tell a lot of my students in my program, if you want to try blogging, try it. If you want to try a podcast, like it's just something that you have to try and see if you enjoy it. And if you don't, then try something else. But there's so many ways to make money online now, which is really, really cool. We live in a cool area, a cool era. Okay, so we kind of also touched on like why blogging is important for course creators, because it's a great way to, find your people, to get that organic traffic. So I teach my students, you want a good balance of organic and then paid ads, but paid ads can be expensive, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So blogging is such a good foundational piece because it's kind of like you said, Amy, it's dating before you get married. So it's like people find you and they learn from you and they get to know you before they start purchasing a course or a membership from you. So how do you feel like blogging affects getting leads, getting that organic marketing going? Is it a good source of organic traffic?
Yeah, because I think it goes into that creating a relationship first. And even if you're a blogger who isn't sharing like really vulnerable pieces of your story or your passion or whatever, allowing people to find a solution with something that you're providing is a way that you are becoming relevant to them. It's the way that you're becoming valuable to them. So let's use Jennifer as an example. She doesn't share a lot about her personal life on her blog, but she offers a real solution to a lot of families who have trouble getting dinner on the table. And so by providing slow cooker recipes, when I met Jennifer and realized that she was doing this, I was like, she's got to run out of ideas at some point, right? Like she has to. Who can make up that many slow cooker recipes? But 10 years later, she's still going, and that amazes me every single day. So, but think of the value that she's provided people for 10 years about getting a wholesome meal on the table that doesn't require you to stand in your kitchen for 2 hours every night while your kids are screaming. I just think about that, like that is truly adding value to somebody's life. So you can add value in a lot of different ways, whether it's sharing a specific story, whether it's sharing that solution. I just think that the impact goes far and wide, much more than we even realize when we have this little dream in our heart that says to us, I think I want to start a blog. I think that I want to be in this online space, for whatever reason it might be. And I think just the opportunities are endless there.
I love that. And I feel like a lot of people may think, well, I mean, there's so many recipe blogs out there. Why should I start one? But it's like you said, it's so much bigger than just a recipe. It's allowing for a family to eat a meal together that's healthy. Or I was talking to someone who wanted to teach guitar, and he's like, it's just guitar. It's just guitar lessons. People can get that locally. And I'm like, but it's not just guitar. You are teaching someone how to play an instrument, and they can have family time and teach their kids how to play that instrument. And it can be so much bigger than just a small skill. So if whatever niche you're thinking about going into, don't sell yourself short. Like it can really make a bigger impact than you even realize. So I love that you said that.
Not
Okay.
only that, but I think something to consider there too is we are all very different people and we all have different gifts and we all have different ways that we present information. And that is attractive to some and it is not attractive to others, just to be really honest. So think about the people that we connect with, the people that we follow on social, the blogs that we've submitted to say, hey, I want to get your newsletter in my inbox. There's something about that person that is attractive to you. There's something about that person that you're like, I want to make sure that I stay connected to them. So when you're thinking about whether or not to start a blog, for instance, just because somebody else is already doing it doesn't mean that there is no market for you, because your community is out there. The people who are going to connect with you, the people who are going to prefer your content over somebody doing the exact same thing, they are out there. I promise you that. But you have to get really clear on your voice and who you want to speak to. And when you're clear about who you are and who you're talking to, that community will naturally find you.
So good. So true. Same thing with courses. Just because someone else has a course in your topic doesn't mean that you shouldn't make that course. I love
Right.
that. Okay, so let's talk about this because I know a lot of listeners are going to be wondering, is blogging dead or is blogging old school? Does blogging still work? What do you guys say to that?
I love that question because I think that's a fear that we have in so many different ways. And I think that the short answer to that is it's definitely not dead. It has just changed and it's going to keep changing. We have to be willing to be able to adapt and pivot to what blogging is becoming. So the old days of just having a journal and writing about your life and having people just show up to your blog, yeah, that's probably dead. You're going to have to work a little bit harder these days to make it happen, and you're really going to have to be intentional and think about how you're serving people, but it is still such a viable source of creating a relationship with people so that you can create that business, because there are people out there every single day searching for information and they like to learn from people that they can connect with. And so blogging is such a great way to connect with people like we've talked about. It's just a matter of, being able to adapt. Now, the whole worry out there is, AI, is that going to impact blogging? There's always going to be new technologies, new platforms coming along. But I think that those things tend to, they have their little roller coaster moments. They go up and down and things change. But I think blogging is just a really solid foundation where you're always going to be able to connect with people. You're always going to own that platform and you're going to be able to stay connected with those people because you're collecting, their email addresses as they're coming to your website if they choose to do so. So I think it's, no matter what, it's going to be a solid foundation. It's just going to be a matter of being able to adapt to the changes as they come.
Yeah. And with AI, I know a lot of people are scared with that with all aspects of online business, but people crave personal connection and AI will never be able to replace that. So I wouldn't worry too much about AI. It can help you expedite a lot of processes in your business, which I definitely think you should do, but it's not going to replace online business or people for sure. And yeah, I love that. Okay, so blogging is not dead. You should definitely use blogging, whether you want it to be your full-time income or to supplement whatever online business you're going to do. And blog posts live so much longer than a social media post. So when you take the time and effort to write a blog post, that's going to bring you so much more traffic than one social media post. And I try to tell my members that all the time. You want that long form content, not focusing on one Instagram post.
Yes, totally agree with that. We never tell someone not to be on social media. That would, feel a little icky because we do live in a day and age that social media is just part of our lives, quite honestly. But do we think that you have to spend a lot of time on social media? Not necessarily. I think that you can have a strategy for social media, but your blog is going to live on and on and on and on. And it can continue, just like you said, to bring in traffic, especially if it's written well, especially if you've done your research ahead of time. It can bring you traffic for literally years.
Yes. And Google searches aren't going anywhere. So as long as people are Googling, blog posts are going to be found.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys have worked with a lot of different bloggers. Can you just give me some examples of some niches that you've worked with that have created a successful blog? Maybe like some weird ones.
Oh, weird ones. Let me
Not
think
to put
about
you on the
that.
spot, but or it doesn't have to be weird, but just kind of some examples of like what is possible with a blog. What are some niches? Because I know everyone knows food blogs and recipes, but what else is out there?
We have had so many different kinds of bloggers, whether it's from, we have travel bloggers. So we have
Mm.
people who are like a solo traveler, solo woman traveler, how she's navigating that, to a travel blogger who travels with a family. We have all different kinds of food bloggers, whether it's, um, wholesome ingredients to just like comfort food. We have wellness bloggers, those who are sharing, some have kids, some do not. So sharing what that looks like either way. Sorry, I'm trying to think about everybody in our membership. Um,
Do you think there's any niche that wouldn't work with blogging? I guess
oh no, no, I really don't. I really don't think that there isn't. It's so interesting, whether they become a student in one of our courses or a membership or whatever, or we just literally get to be able to have these conversations with people. Our inbox over on Instagram, a lot of people will message us and share their ideas. And we are amazed. We have literally not sat down to two people having the same idea.
Mm.
So even if somebody's like, I want to start a food blog, it's likely that they have very different ideas of what that food blog is going to look like. And over the years, we've gotten off so many calls and been like, they are just amazing. Like, people are so creative. They're more creative than you would even realize. And I think that that's the really cool thing about it. I think when you understand what you're passionate about, what you want to share about, and then you can learn to do a little bit of the research behind the scenes and see, are people actually searching for this? Likely they are,
Mm.
likely. And so then just creating a blog that matches that user intent and what they're looking for. Like, what is somebody in that niche actually looking for? And then creating a blog that can support essentially search engines to be able to spit out the content that you're creating. I really don't think that there is a niche that is off. I mean, we've had people from like how to keep your teens safe. We have somebody who is a part of our community, like, and that was a heavy topic. That was like, and she asked us, like, how can I talk about this? How can I talk about keeping teen girls safe? I want to be able to teach them how to keep themselves safe in this day and age. And that was a new one for us that we'd never had before. And that was, it's just interesting to see all these ideas. And it's a direct impact on something that has made an impact on their lives and that they in turn want to help someone else with. So use that as kind of the fire as well. Is if it's something that is important to you, it's likely made an impact on your life, and it's likely making an impact on somebody else's life, good or bad. And so how can you shine the light? How can you spread the awareness about whatever that is and help other people find solutions to that problem, that inquiry, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, if you Google anything, you can find a blog post about it these days. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
there's no niche that wouldn't work. And also, I like how you said it doesn't have to be necessarily something that you have a degree in or you're an
Mm-mm.
expert in. It can be something that you just have personal experience with or that you are passionate about. And then you can start blogging. And as you blog, you'll learn more to create more content. And same thing for course creators. You don't have to necessarily consider yourself an expert. You just need to be a little bit ahead of your reader or your customer. So I love that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I do think that that's a big, big hang up is that people feel like, why me? They have kind of that imposter syndrome and they ask themselves that question, well, why me? Or, somebody out there knows a lot more than I know about it. Yeah, they might, but there's also somebody out there who knows less than you know about it. And so don't sell yourself short and what your story could potentially do to help somebody just move the needle forward in their own life.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so this is kind of a loaded question, but for someone who is brand new to blogging and they want to know, okay, if I want to create a blog, how do I ensure that it's successful? What are some of the components, like the bigger picture components of a successful blog?
So I think the first thing they need to think about is, what is success to me?
Mm.
And so that is something that you have to define. You have to define your goals a little bit so that you can make some important decisions along the way. But for most bloggers who want to create the traditional sense of creating a blog that they can monetize with ad revenue and sponsored content, there are some technical things that they need to know about. They need to have a good website hosting company, and they need to be on a self-hosted WordPress website. So that is going to be one piece that's really important for many different reasons. Um, we won't go into all of those right now, but it helps you with your site speed. It gives you more ability to customize your site and things like that. And I know that feels a little bit scary to a new blogger, but it is worth figuring out. And it's definitely doable for pretty much everybody who's willing to just jump in, dive in, and take a chance to learn something new. That is a really important component of setting up a successful blog, in our opinion. And then also just making sure you have a good website theme that functions well. You need to create a really good user experience. And then just understanding how to create content that will be what people are searching for and meet the needs of your users. So, really just keeping the person that you are serving in mind at all times as you're setting up and creating your website, so that your website is easy to use, easy to navigate, and they're able to find what they are looking for.
And I'm going to add two other things that aren't like the technical piece. If you become part of Jennifer and I's community, like if you listen to our podcast or come to our blog, you'll realize quickly that Jennifer is definitely the technical research part of our brain, and I am more the pep talk part of our brain. And so I'm going to tell you that take yourself seriously from the start.
Mm.
And that's a really big component. If you're not going to take yourself seriously from the start and consider yourself a business, then you're going to struggle with some of those pieces. And be patient. Blogging is not something that is built overnight at all. But if you do all those foundational things that Jennifer just said they're crucial, quite honestly, in building a successful blog, and you have patience and you consider yourself a business from the start, you won't fail.
Those are all really helpful. And yeah, there are going to be no streams of income that I talk about on the show that are quick and easy, because those really don't exist unless you win the lottery. I say this, any business is going to be hard. So choose your hard. Just choose which one feels right to you. So I love that. Okay, so let's say that we have someone listening and they are ready to start a blog. What would you say would be their first step? What kind of advice would you give for them?
I would say the first step would be to get really clear on what your niche is, understand what that is, and I would start there. Brainstorm what kinds of content you think you could write about, but really spend time on that. Spend time on what exactly that is. Maybe make some content pillars and ask yourself, okay, if somebody's coming to my site because they want to let's use like, I want to have a non-toxic lifestyle, for instance. Let's break that down. What could that look like? Well, let's think about your lifestyle and let's think about the components that look like that. So that's going to look like, it's going to look like home. It could look like beauty, and it could look like cooking. So how can you clean up your cleaning products and the products that you use in your home? How could you clean up your skincare and your makeup? And how can you clean up the food that you're feeding your family? That's kind of a broader niche, to be honest, but it is all under that realm of non-toxic. So sit down and write notes on that. Like ask yourself, what kind of content can I write regarding that? And I think that that's a really good exercise to start in the beginning to know, will I have enough ideas in this particular niche? And if I'm afraid of running out of ideas, then maybe something you could do is just do some market research. See if other people are doing something similar. See what other things that they might be sharing with their community, and ask yourself, do I have something that I could offer to my community as well to help them learn about this particular thing? So I really do think that the niche is one of the first steps in starting. You have to have that conversation with yourself. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people listening, maybe not, but we get this question a lot. Well, I want to write about a lot of things.
Mm.
And we totally understand that. But I think it's only going to be valuable to you if you do this from the beginning, because you can always expand. You always can. So you're not like putting yourself in this box that then you're stuck in for the rest of your life or the rest of your blogging career. But you want to start in that small space to really hone in on who you're speaking to. And then from there, you can begin to see what their problems are, what solutions they need to find, and how you can serve in those ways and how you can create content that helps them. And that's how you don't run out of content is you listen to your audience, you listen to your readers and what they're saying. Hey, I like this. I want more of this. Or, hey, I'm still finding myself stuck in these certain areas of my life and I need more. So when you really can figure out who you're speaking to and you create that just natural communication with them, it ends up actually helping you in the long run. But if you can't ever find the people that you're talking to because your niche is so broad, then it's going to feel a lot harder, like you're kind of trudging through mud in the beginning.
Yeah, I love that. So start super niche and make
Mhm.
sure you know who your audience is and then kind of use their feedback as data to then
Mhm.
write other pieces of content. That's great.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, well, this was so helpful, you guys. Thank you so much. So, I always ask this to anyone who's on my show. Can you tell me one act of generosity that you've done or you plan to do?
Oh, that's a fun question. Gosh. Well, one thing that I started personally doing, as my kids have gotten older, this is something that's been a passion of mine and I was able to actually dive into. I have a passion for animal rescue. So I've been volunteering at our local animal shelter and doing some fostering of kittens and things like that. So, yeah, just trying to help out in that space now that there's a little more room in my life to be able to do that. That's been something that I've been spending the little bit of extra time I have each week doing.
I love that and so needed for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons that I wanted a blogging business was to be able to be there for my kids. So I joined our PTO at the school. And so I'm serving on the PTO committee and volunteering in the classroom. And I don't want to be a teacher. I'm very thankful for those people who are teachers. I would not thrive probably there, but I thrive being able to walk into their school and help in the classrooms, see their smiling faces in the middle of the day and be able to, offer a voice and have the opportunity to spend time with their classmates and learn more about the school that they spend so much time in and be able to serve in that way. So I've really enjoyed that since I've started doing that a couple years ago.
That's amazing. And I love that these online businesses give us the opportunity to do these types of things that with a typical 9 to 5 job, you just don't have time
Mhm.
for. You can't
Mhm.
just leave work in the
Absolutely.
middle of the day and go to your kid's school.
No.
Thank God for online businesses and setting our own schedule. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, thank you so much, Amy and Jennifer. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Sure. We would love to have you pop on over if you're listening on your podcast app and look up our podcast. It's called The Ultimate Blog Podcast. And we release episodes each Tuesday all about blogging. And you can also find us at sparkmediaconcepts.com or Instagram at sparkmediaconcepts.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. This was awesome. And if you guys are ready to start your blog, whether you want to go full-time blogger or you just want a blog to help you bring traffic for your course creation, these ladies are your go-to experts. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.